what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 21 of Paranormal Axetivities with your host, Ben Axe. Huge episode lined up today as we have returning guest Keith Linder here to talk about more of his time at the Bothell Hell House, the investigation that Ghost Adventurers, the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventurers, did in the house, and then why they claim to not have captured any activity. We're going to get into that, why it happened, how it happened, and what the problem with those guys were when it comes to the Bothell Hell House. And we're just going to hear more about his time at the house, some more stories of incidents happening, and it's a hell of an interview, so I'm pumped to bring Keith back on. But before that, I do have to push some merchandise here. I do officially have Paranormal Axetivities, t-shirts, hoodies, pillows, face masks, drapes, all kinds of cool Paranormal Activities merchandise. So go to teespring.com, type in Paranormal Activities, check out my store, check out the home front store there, and it's got some cool stuff. So if you do buy some merchandise, I would love if you guys, send a picture of you guys wearing the shirts. I can post them on my social media pages. I think they just look cool. So, I appreciate it. If not, you don't have to. But yeah, cool stuff. When it comes to an activity of the week, the well may be getting a little dry. I do not recall any activities happening since I did an episode last week. So, no new stories from me this week, but I am going to St. Mary's next Saturday, August 15th, I believe. August 15th, I'll be in St. Mary's. We're going to do a little ghost investigation at the Evening Leader, where we did an interview with back in June now. Time's flying. So I'm hoping to capture some activity there, and then I'll be also going to other places around the town, filming, taking pictures, doing my podcast in that town. So hopefully next week at this time I'll have a lot of cool stories for you. So, that being said, and if you guys want, you can also watch this interview that Keith and I did live. We just did it. It was live on alleverythingentertainment.com, and I'm just recording this intro for the audio only. So if you do want to watch Keith and I talk live on video, or not live, it's recorded now, but if you want to actually see our faces while we talk, go to alleverythingentertainment.com. You'll find the video there of the interview. But now let's just go ahead and play it. So I'm going to go ahead and start the interview that I do with Keith Linder from the Bothell Hell House. Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to Paranormal Activities Live, special edition live with special guest Keith Linder. Welcome back to the show, man. I appreciate you being back.
Hey, man, thanks for inviting me a few weeks ago. Feels good to be back. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know things have kind of changed, but not changed since we've last spoke. I know Corona is still running rampant, and it's a weird time out there right now. So I hope Seattle and Washington is treating you well on the other side of the country here.
Yeah, it's been an interesting, difficult year, I believe, for everybody with the COVID and Seattle. I think the last time we talked, they were in the thick of it.
Oh yeah.
But everything's open now, but it's still like everywhere else. It's like a fire that won't burn itself out, right?
Absolutely. It's just always something new.
So,
but hey, let's get right into it. So for you guys who have listened to the show, you've heard Keith on episode, I forget what episodes they were, but they were pretty early on. And now he's back to talk about, since that episode aired, Ghost Adventures have aired a second episode regarding your case and your investigation with the Bothell Hell House. But for those of you who don't know, Keith Linder here, he has a book out called The Bothell Hell House, Poltergeist of Washington State, available on Amazon.com. Definitely check that out. It's an interesting read. It's a really interesting story. And then go back and check out the few episodes he's been on in the past. Hear all about living with a poltergeist. For how many years was it, Keith?
4 years.
It's a long time. So
yeah, felt like 20.
I bet. I'm sure you're probably still feeling it or thinking about it and all of that good stuff. I'm sure it's a haunt that just keeps haunting from the way it sounds.
Yeah, it never lets up. 4 years, and then moving out, still some residual activity, so it never gets old.
I was going to ask you about that. Since you've moved out, like how much hauntings or how many experiences do you still have, do you think, roughly? Like how often?
I get reminded mainly when I go to sleep of the activity, mainly the bed shakes, the tugging of the sheets. I mentioned this in my second book, the pulsation, the heartbeats, disembodied heartbeats coming from both mattress, pillow. That never gets old. That's never subsided. And occasionally, like a few weeks ago, an item will, aport or relocate to another part of the house, um, or disappear entirely and reappear weeks later. So
That's crazy.
they tend to do that when I'm sort of getting used to the idea of getting my life back. But it's weird. Yeah, it's totally weird.
That makes sense. Have you had any more potted plants levitate lately?
No, thank God. None of the physical phenomena, definitely none of the phenomena poltergeists are known for. And that's probably because I live by myself now. There's no Tina. We're not at ground zero at the house. It was different when I was living in the house and traveling on road trips. Then, yeah, that would happen. But I'm still living at ground zero. But now that I'm 4 years removed from living at ground zero, nothing of the physical activity. I say in my second book, this is more spiritual, metaphysical phenomena that happens now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're safe. I'm glad that it doesn't seem physical anymore. So that's awesome to hear. So let's get right into it, man, with Ghost Adventure. So I know the last time you were on the show, we talked about your experiences from when you moved in to when you moved out, and we basically just told your story, which, by the way, was very, very well received and one of my most highest rated episodes still, and people love talking about you. So just so you know. Uh, so this time, let's talk about more of the investigation that Ghost Adventurers did, because they're a big name and they were in your house, and if I remember correctly, it was only 7 hours that they were in there, and they claimed that.
Actually, five. Actually, Ghost Adventures were there. 5 hours is what they told themselves, not us,
Gotcha.
uh, of doing actual investigating. Yeah, 5 hours.
No, fair enough. So, and they came back and they claimed that nothing happened, right? And but again, 5 hours, you could be in the most haunted house in the country and you're not going to see anything in 5 hours. That's just how it is. So talk about that for a little bit. Talk about how you hooked up with those guys, how the investigation went, and then kind of to take this opportunity to give your side of their case, of their investigation.
Yeah, a lot of people familiar with Ghost Adventures who watched the show, and just for the record, me and Tina never watched the show or knew of Ghost Adventures before they came to the house. They found us, and they found us through a friend of a friend, meaning the local media in Seattle knew Dave Schrader, and the local media did a story on the house. Um, so Ghost Adventures, after talking to the media reporter who did witness phenomena, and there's a video out there of her witnessing phenomena while she's interviewing me in the house. So Ghost Adventures comes out, and it was kind of weird and interesting because they sent me and Tina on an itinerary of their investigation, all the paperwork and sort of itinerary of what they're going to do. And as soon as I saw the portion of the itinerary that says, this is our hours of investigation, I was worried in the sense of, wow, that's not a lot of time. 5 hours is not allowing yourself. We've had teams come in here who spend a day, 8 hours, 11 hours, 14, 16 hours, and they barely get stuff.
Right.
Here you are coming in, and you're coming in on the tail end of your B team. There was two teams that arrived: B team, A team, B roll, B for B roll. A team is Ghost Adventures. B roll team arrives first, and they stayed 2.5 days. They didn't live in the house, but they stayed. They did about a 12-hour shift each of the 2.5 days that they were there, but they're not conducting investigations. And then when Zach and crew arrived, it's like you see on the episode. It's quick, it's fast, it's 90% lockdown. And I told Zach, because I kept a diary, and the diary that I kept is in my book, of when the house is most active. As an investigator, I think you would like to know, when is the house most active, Keith and Tina? And we always told them during the day. The house is primarily active during the daytime when me and Tina are both home. And they conducted their lockdown anyway at night, which I later learned that's what the show is known for. That's what their claim to fame is,
Sure.
lockdown. But you have to understand from a paranormal standpoint, and I found out now, or I know this now, that poltergeists or spirits for that matter don't care about your lockdown. They don't care about your 5 hours. They don't care about, oh, your name is Zach Baggins or Dave Schrader or Aaron or whatever. They only care about haunting the house occupants. Now, you come in there and you got a tight schedule, you want to do your lockdown, that's all fine. But don't think that that's going to yield you results, and especially don't think when you don't get any results that Keith and Tina might have either A, made it up, or B, over exaggerated. And that's what the episode Demons in Seattle implied. And it was just not me saying that. It was a lot of people who watched that episode, familiar with Ghost Adventures, who watched them through and through, said that they've never seen them behave like that to house guests. They've never seen them go far and beyond with the accusatory tone of, it looks like spray paint. It looks too good to be true. No house on this earth is that active. Why don't they leave? Why is Tina sleeping in the next room with the wall writings? And all that really, put us in a bad light because it made the show, or the house for that matter, be less about the house and more about Keith and Tina faking it, which there's never no evidence presented that we faked anything. You can't say the absence of evidence means there's no paranormal activity. The absence of evidence, as Steve Mara said later when they came and lived in the house, often means the evidence at the current time is not present. That's all it means. Now, if you saw a bottle of spray paint or a bucket or you saw something nefarious, then of course you have to call that as you see it. You have to approach me and Tina and say, hey, what is this? What explain that roller over there, or this gallons and gallons of black paint you got over hiding in the closet.
Right.
Then you can say something. Then you have you can have a leg to stand on. But they didn't find none of that, and so it was a weird, and it left a bad taste in me and Tina's mouth, and it reflected poorly, in my opinion, on Ghost Adventures because you need people to come forward with their claims.
Absolutely.
As a researcher, you don't want to vilify people. You want them to come forward and be comfortable. But if you're going to make them be on the defensive and the bad guy or gal, then people are not going to go forward with their claims. They're just going to shut up and deal with it, move out, whatever, pass the problem on to the next house occupants, and nobody knows anything.
Absolutely. And one thing with those guys, or ghost investigations in general, I feel like if I was going to do something like that, if I didn't believe the occupants of the house, I just wouldn't go into the house or do the investigation. But why would you go into an environment like that with a negative attitude and just come off unprofessional and, like you mentioned, make people not want to come to you anymore because they're going to attack them, basically. So watching the whole episode, I felt off. It seemed like they weren't there to get a ghost. It seemed like they were there to, I don't even know what they were trying to do or point out or make a point. It just seemed odd. It didn't seem like they were investigating anything to me.
I found out later after the show aired through people familiar with Ghost Adventures who work with them behind the scenes, who know Travel Channel. And like I said, me and Tina, when we came into the paranormal, we didn't know there was a storm that existed, a civil war, if you will, in the paranormal community, in the sense of, at that time, one of Ghost Adventures' primary members or founders left the show. I think it was Nick, I believe. And at that time, Ghost Adventures were getting a lot of heat from their paranormal, I guess, buddies or friends of making it look too easy. No episode yields results. They were batting 1,000 on TV. Wherever they go, they get it. They got it. We're good. And people were dinging them on the side saying, you're not really portraying a reality, a realistic portrayal of paranormal investigations. Then comes the Bothell House, and it's a poltergeist house, but nobody knows that yet. And they descend when Ghost Adventures called us. They wanted to come right away. I mean, like you said, if you're going to come, then vet us, interview us, talk to us, look for inconsistencies, then make your mind based on that assessment to come. They didn't do anything. I talked to Dave Schrader about 15 minutes. We're on our way. So they didn't do their homework, but that's not me and Tina's fault. That's their fault. So when they came, I'm pretty sure they had two scenarios played out. If we find something, we get lucky, then we can always portray it as we came in on white horses and helped this family out. If we don't find anything, we can spin it around and say, aha, here's our investigation where we didn't find anything. What they should have stopped at is, hey, we came, we were there a brief period of time, and from our experience and from talking to our colleagues, you're not going to always get evidence the first time around. We are not saying that Keith and Tina are experiencing, or no, we don't know. But we didn't get anything there. We're going to stay and maintain contact and communications with Keith and Tina. And if anything develops, our audience, our listeners will be the first to know. That's how you do something professional. You don't get ahead of your skis and say, we were there 5 hours. Tina acted weird. We got nothing. Looked like spray paint. I don't believe it. I'm Zach Baggins. I don't feel any pressure. I don't feel any weird. My stomach's not curling. And, and then portray us, because they made us the poster child to turn the back around the paranormal community to say, we didn't get anything. But I think the paranormal community checked them, at least a large percentage of it did, said, well, that was wrong what you did to Keith and Tina, because they're the house occupants, the whole, almost the Hippocratic oath that physicians take with the patient is, I shall not make the situation worse. Okay? I'm here to relieve you of your stress, of your pain, but I'm not here to cause you any more pain or aggravation. And they did. And I tell people, and I'm honest, I tell the truth, and it's detailed in my book. I got the emails, I got the documentation. People can read it for themselves, the back and forth communication. And after they left, they never contacted us. They didn't tell us what they found or didn't find until the episode aired, and there was no communication for 2.5 months between the time they left and when the episode aired.
That's wild to me. Like, that just seems, one, unprofessional, like we mentioned, and it just seems shady. Like, if they didn't find anything, why would they not say that? If they did find something, why would they hide that? That makes sense.
I mean, if you don't find anything, just say, hey, we didn't find anything, but you got to caveat that. You got to footnote that and say, but that's not Keith and Tina's fault.
Sure.
Remember, we're turning our house over to you. Part of the stipulation was before they set foot in Seattle is we want control of the house to conduct our lockdown, and we're going to put y'all two in a hotel or somewhere or whatever. Right. And like I said, poltergeists don't care about all of that. That doesn't make them run to you with activity. It probably hinders you. But that's their format. They're entitled to their format. I disagree with it. I don't think there's a such thing as a one-size-fits-all in the paranormal. That's why it's called the paranormal.
Absolutely.
But that's their format. So they ran with it. They gambled. They lost. Where I call them for malfeasance is, Tina looked weird, or it's spray paint. Now, if you're going to say it's spray paint, that it looks like spray paint, and you have access to the house, why not take samples of the spray paint? Why not take some of the wall writings and go have it analyzed to confirm? Like I did, and we found out later that it wasn't spray paint. But Zach could have done the same thing, because when They came, I had not yet had the wall writings analyzed. We always painted over the wall writings. The Catholic Church and the paranormal teams locally said whenever that stuff appears, paint over it immediately so the spirits won't take foothold. We only stopped painting over it when Ghost Adventures asked us not to paint over it anymore because they wanted it for their show. I thought they also wanted it because they were going to analyze it, and they never did. But to say something, to speculate, it looks like spray paint, that means nothing. Poltergeist read on the wall with crayon, with Sharpie, with lipstick, with honey, with ketchup, with blood plasma, with blood. Looks mean nothing. You can't go by just looks. You got to go by a microscope. What does the microscope tell you that stuff is? There are labs today that could tell you, yeah, that's spray paint or not. They could tell you the manufacturer, the type of paint, what part of the country where it's made from. All that stuff is cataloged somewhere, but they never did that. And I know it's not because they don't have the money to. Zach buys houses and dead people's bones and all this stuff. He could have had that analyzed. But absolutely, no, they just used it for the show. It looks good on TV.
Yeah, and that's the problem I think I have. Honestly, I never watched Ghost Adventures. The only episode I watched was actually the one that you were on, just so I knew what I was talking about. And I never got into Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, any of those shows. For one, it's all for show. So I would about guarantee you half those investigations, nothing happens. That's a boring show. So you got to do something that makes it fake. And in my opinion, that's not worth watching if it's going to be fake. Even though I like pro wrestling, which that's different though. But then,
the wrestlers tell you, "Hey, it's fake." They tell you that, so you don't try this at home.
Exactly.
They're like, we're athletes, but we're entertainer athletes.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I understand their point of wanting to film at night because it's for a show and that looks better on camera. But the fact is, you said already, daytime is when you need to be here. So I don't understand why they can't do both. If they're on a tight schedule, well, have a different team come out and kind of hang out in the daytime or do whatever you got to do to make it happen. But if you want to get the best stuff for your show, why would you not be there at the best time per the owner's knowledge?
Yeah, and to go a step further, why keep Keith and Tina there? One of the things, and I think you saw the Demons in Seattle Uncovered documentary by Steve Mera and Don Phillips, which is, in my opinion, an antithesis to the Demons in Seattle episode. People should watch both of those episodes back to back. And Steve Mera, a parapsychologist, made a good observation. He said, when you got a house environment and you got two occupants or however many people you have in the home, you don't want to change the dynamics of the home to get phenomena or witness phenomena because, believe it or not, they're related. If you take Keith and Tina, not saying that they're the cause of the activity, but they are the house occupants. And to take them out of the environment is almost like you're contaminating your own environment by removing the two primaries because we live there. Now, if you come in there in the daytime and keep Keith and Tina and just have us do our normal routine, observe us from afar or from the garage like they were doing in the show, and intermingle, you might get some phenomena. You might witness things that we reported. And that's why Dawn and Steve were successful. That's why Nikki Novell and her team were successful because they intermingled, they lived in the home. Most of their investigation was done during the daytime. And I tell people, because there's a difference between a ghost hunter and a researcher. A ghost hunter goes chasing shadows, in my opinion. A researcher digs deep and tries to go find evidence. Ghost Adventures came in, and by their own admittance, came into the house wanting to see burnt Bibles. They wanted to see items catch on fire. They said that. They wanted to see wall writings appear in real time while they're there. That's never going to happen to a paranormal investigator. That's not going to happen. You're setting yourself for your own disappointment, and that's an unrealistic expectation. But you can get phenomena. Now, if you get phenomena or discover several anomalies, then you can correlate the two. And that's what Steve and Dawn did. They didn't come in looking for burnt Bibles. They never set a burnt Bible down and put cameras on it and like, okay, impress me. They never did that. They never walked around the house talking to the ceiling or to the air like Ghost Adventures did. No, you got to go in there and look for the research and the phenomena. Spend all your time in the room that was most active. Like I tell people, the hallway in the office. If you saw the Demons in Seattle episode, they were never in the office except to film the wall writings. That was one of the most active rooms in the house. Steve, Mara, and Don lived in that room. I mean, they went to that room with a fine-tooth comb. Same with the hallway. Everything you see with Zach and them, they're roaming around in the living room and the garage. We never had activity in the garage.
Right.
It's a garage.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
And they did mention, too, also, from what I saw, they focused a lot on Tina. Like you mentioned earlier, she looks weird. And I remember that one scene when she was walking through the living room, maybe, and they just focused on that the entire time. Why are you focused on the people and not on the house itself?
Because they needed a scapegoat. At that time, they didn't know then that they were going to leave with zero evidence. And how that was portrayed on the episode is not how it went down. The house is completely black. They put black cardboard on every window. And it looks like it's total black. And we're walking around. We can't see nothing. I can't see nothing. Tina can't see nothing. So we're kind of feeling our way through. And even in the episode, you hear Tina, she says, I smell burnt sage. And the reason why she's saying that to Zach and them, because we have microphones in our ear or whatever, is normally when we smell burnt sage, me and Tina, activity is about to jump off.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That's when we're living in the home.
Gotcha.
So now Tina's saying, I smell burnt sage, and she's roaming around the kitchen trying to locate it with her nose. And she's talking, and you can hear her say it one time during the episode, and that's when Zach comes from the garage and he starts joining in but he's not looking for burnt sage. He's just following me and Tina around. Well, how that happened in real life was Tina leans in over where there's a sage stick laying on the kitchen table that was used in one of the reenactment scenes that was still smoldering, sort of like the Starbucks cup in the last episode of Game of Thrones. Somebody didn't get that prop out of there,
right,
and it was still smoldering on the table. Like, oops. So she leans in and smells it. She can't see it. She smells it. And in doing so, comes face to face with Zach. And Zach quilts back. He's like, ah!
Yeah.
And Tina says, Zach, stop acting like a pussy. She said that. And everybody started laughing. Everybody, Dave Schrader, everybody in the audience started laughing, Aaron, everybody. And I'm standing there. I'm like, oh my gosh, Tina just called Zach a pussy. But I did not know, because like I said, we don't watch Ghost Adventures. We didn't know at the time that he gets, harassed a lot by his buddies because he's always quipping. He's always like, spider or something. So when Tina said that, everybody busted out laughing. And it was a lighthearted moment. It was a moment of levity. And we were like, ha, ha, ha. And we laughed it off, shrugged it off, and then resumed. Fast forward 2 months later, we see the episode, and we see Zach's like, I get this weird, uneasy feeling around Tina. And you like, when she looks at me, and I looked at Tina, and Tina just burst out crying because the internet trolls just ate her alive with that. She's the demon lady, and she's the woman from hell and all that. And Zach felt a weird feeling. He didn't tell us that.
Sure.
The house occupants, right? You work for us, right? You're here because you're trying to help us, And he didn't tell us that because that's voiceover. When Zach is talking on the episode, he's saying that in a studio.
Right.
He's putting a narrative, a fictional narrative, and you don't hear what's transpiring because it's voiceover and it's cut and edited. But it made Tina look bad. She became a scapegoat, the mascot, if you will, of the house. And once again, it took the problem from the house and made it us. Oh, the problem is Keith and Tina, particularly Tina. And every now and then I'll get an email or I'll see a comment under one of my YouTube videos saying, hey, what was up with Tina? And I know it's coming from a person who watched the episode. and I have to school them. I have to say, hey, slow your roll. That's not how that happened or went down. You're
Right.
basing an opinion on an edit, and it's explained out in my book in detail. And just watch Tina when she's saying, I smelt burnt sage. And look at the episode when you see the sage reenactment scene and all that and put it all together. But um, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate like that is, and unfortunate like they did with the Demons in Seattle Decoded, of sort of doubling down on all the things they did wrong the first time. It's like they did not learn from their mistakes.
Right. It makes sense. It's crazy. We do have a comment here. Say your take on it. We have Melissa Strack. It seems a little shady that they didn't want you there. And like as a ghost, I don't consider myself an investigator. I've been dabbling in it, I guess. But I feel like I would want the people there who experience the activity. For one, the ghosts would probably be more active if those people are there, right? And then two, so I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm looking at, I have the information there if I have questions about the house or about a room or about an object. So why did you think they didn't want you there in the first place?
Well, I know for the lockdown, and like I said, they gave us the format before they arrived, and I heard through other episodes on the lockdown, they rarely have the people there. They like to conduct their lockdown with just themselves. I don't agree with that format. I think, like you said, if you're going to have an investigation and if your goal is to catch evidence, then don't disturb the universe, right? Get in there, keep the people there with you because they're your subject matter experts. They're your eyes and ears. We can sense things and let you know. When Nikki and her team were there and Steve and Dawn were there, certain rooms they would ask questions about. They would hear noise and say, "Is that normal, Keith, or not normal?" And I would tell them. The pressure of the house changed. I know it before they did because I lived there. I have my baseline of my home. I lived there, and I would sort of give them the heads up to send us away. You're really flying blind. You're really flying an airplane with blindfolds on, and that's what they did. And I don't think it should not be a one size fits all on investigations. Every investigation or every haunting is different. Poltergeist investigations are extremely difficult. They're probably one of the most difficult investigations you can undertake because nobody knows for sure the variables of why a poltergeist is even there. There's theories, but even the theories are contradictory. So to just shoot us away and then just go an all alone approach, I thought was really counterproductive on their part. Every other team who came in after them lived in the home. Now I know they can't live there; they're there on a finite amount of time. So the next best thing is to keep us close by. Keep me and Tina close by. Don't sit us on the couch and have us twiddling our thumbs. Have us doing what we normally do.
Right.
Okay? Because I could tell you the activity that this case is known for always erupted when we were just doing normal things. Okay? Having dinner. Whoa, plant go flying. Oh, the TV is changing by itself. Oh, that stomping, that loud bang. Go to sleep or about to go to sleep. Oh, the ironing board is flying. The iron is flying. Oh, I'm in my computer in my office. Oh, a beer bottle just flew in. Oh, all the books on the bookshelf just suddenly got thrown to the floor. Those type of things. And I also believe by having us there, you're going to get some of the voices, some of the EVPs or what we call AVPs, just because the spirits are observant, they're watching, they're curious. Um, Ghost Adventures had 3 camera malfunctions during their investigation. I think 2 of them made it to the final cut and was on the episode, but they never paid attention to that. They never focused on that. Other than people who have told me Ghost Adventures, when a camera acts weird, they always call attention to that or do something because I can tell you now, those cameras or the battery drainage, those were the spirits. They were doing that. And it shocked me when I saw the episode because when we were filming and the battery pack would die. Well, Steve and Don had the same problem, except they would take the battery out of the dead camera, move it to another camera, and it works fine. Or vice versa. You know, why always that kitchen camera? Okay, if it's the kitchen camera battery that's always dying, where do you focus your investigation on moving forward? In the kitchen. And they never did that. And you saw that on the episode of the cameras dying over and over and over. And he even asked one of the technicians, hey, didn't you just change that camera? Didn't you just put a new battery pack in it? And they go, oh, all right, let's go upstairs. And I was like,
clearly,
no, idiot, go in they're in the kitchen.
Right.
So and even I saw that while I was there, you know.
And that's like basic ghost investigation 101. I mean, draining of the battery is exactly what happens at every ghost investigation, and it's always the ghost. That's why we always have multiple batteries with you. I'm not even an investigator, and I know that.
I know that. I'm not an investigator. What I've been telling every paranormal team prior to them arriving is our cell phones always die. The cameras that I've been trying to erect in the home to get footage, the batteries always die. And now you're having the same thing. Jennifer Noble Paranormal Team, who was on the episode herself, all their batteries die within 2 seconds of walking into the house. All of them. So when Ghost Adventures cameras died, I thought for sure, okay, the kitchen. They're in the kitchen. They're in the kitchen. And it was just like, no, we're going to the bedroom now. And I was like, okay. Then they sent us to the hotel, and I was like, they're not going to get anything. They're not going to get anything.
At that point, it's pretty much kind of a game over kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah, because you only got 5 hours. You only got 5 hours. They have technicians and crews, contractors who are only there. It's a hard stop, believe me. I don't know if you've ever been on a production set. It's not a slow stop. There's no such thing of, oh, we need another hour. No, it's a hard stop. 5 hours in a production set means 5 hours. These people are unionized employees. The people that you don't see on the front of the camera, trust me, there's 20 people behind it. They're there for a finite amount of time. And when 5 hours hits, they're out of there. They're gone. They got another job to do. And there's no extend the clock, sun's rising. No, keep the team need their house back. You only got 5 hours. So they did, in my opinion, and they didn't make good use of the 5 hours. They really did.
That's crazy. So Melissa again has a question. Was it 5 hours of filming or 5 hours with just the setup?
It was 5 hours of them investigating.
Gotcha. That's what I thought.
It was 2 hours to set up, cover all the windows and doors and all that, and 5 hours of actual investigation. Yeah, the team were in the house longer than 5 hours.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The investigation itself was 5 hours.
Okay, fair enough. Another thing I thought I saw too while watching, because you mentioned the batteries kept draining. Another thing, at one point, there is a fly on Zach's face. And that could just be, it's a fly. But I thought it was interesting how they caught the fly on the dude's face. And I feel like that could be another kind of activity as well. I've heard several stories of flies being involved, especially with the poltergeist or a demon-like.
Well, now you bring up something rather interesting, because in my book, The Bothell Hell House, I believe, and near Thanksgiving time of 2014, we had like 2 or 3 inches of snow on the ground. And it rarely snows in the Pacific Northwest, but it snowed a couple of days. And we did have a campaign inside the house, and I talk about this a lot in my book because it was weird, of flies appearing. Now, the weird things about these flies is you only see one. There's only one. And they're big. These are nickel-sized flies. I call them horse flies. But horse flies in November, December.
All right.
And every time I would see the fly, I would see them, I'd kill it. And normally you see a fly, they're real jittery. It's hard to capture and kill them or whatever. And you swat them and they fly away. This fly never moved. I'm from Texas. I've killed thousands of flies in my life. These are the most easiest flies to kill. They were like, I don't know. But I killed one of them and then flushed it down the toilet or whatever. I didn't think nothing of it. The next day, I saw a second fly. Now, in my book, there's a hallway scene. There's a picture in my book and a video on my YouTube where the poltergeist took a card that I got at a Christian Bible bookstore. I think got the Lord's Prayer on it. and I set it by my keyboard where the poltergeist took it. And the next day, it hung it up where you saw the pants hanging up in the hallway.
Gotcha.
It hung it up in that same spot and wrote the words "Die KL." I kid you not, "Die KL." That same spot was where that fly was the second day.
That's pretty wild.
I come around the hallway and I see, and you can't miss it because it's just so big. You see it like a big dot on the wall. And I see this fly, and I go get my paper or whatever, and I come back and I swat it, I kill it. And the next day again, the third time I saw the fly, and once again, this picture's in my book, is on the kitchen lamp table downstairs where the first Bible went missing. In that same spot the Bible was taken was that another fly. And I killed that fly. And after that, there were no more episodes of flies. It was only 3 days in a row, one fly each day of these giant flies. Now, of course, at that time, we had so much activity, I stopped believing in coincidences. So I looked on Google, went online, and typed the word flies and demon or poltergeist, and was met with, yeah, that's a pretty heavy infestation when you have flies. It's been reported in other cases, other instances. It's not unheard of. And these flies were very uncharacteristic. They didn't run or shoo away. They were big. And you see they were just sitting somewhere. They're almost like a toy, except they're alive, but they were easy to kill. And then after the third one, no more. But yeah, you saying I forgot about that. I forgot about the fly landing on Zach's face. I'm gonna have to revisit that one to see, because I know how big they were when I killed them, and I have pictures of them, the flies that I killed in my first book. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big fly from what I remember, and I just thought it was weird landing right in his face, and it was pretty big, and then he swiped it away, and that was it. Like, why would you not talk about that for a second? Because it's dark, it's right on his face while he's right by a camera. Like, it's something that I think is not really a coincidence, but the investigators just didn't even talk about it after that. Like, I thought that was like, what the hell? Why are we not talking about clearly something's different,
Yeah, I think Ghost Adventures, like I said, I think the show's been around 20 odd years or whatever. I just think they were over their heads. I mean, this case just got the best of them in multiple levels. The fact that they can go on TV and say comfortably that they found no Native Americans ever living in Bothell. When anybody listening today, the person who asked the question can go online and Google Bothell, Washington, Google Snohomish County, and see that Native Americans are all over this place. They still are. And for them to say that as if the internet doesn't exist, they say stuff on their show that could easily be verified or debunked. I debunked a lot of their stuff in book 1 and book 2, but they made it so easy. I mean, to say that there was no Native Americans ever in Bothell, or they could find no history or record, when you and I right now could find it relatively quickly and free on the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was just poor. Just poor, sloppy work, laziness, not drilling down, which sort of, I guess, supports your argument that the paranormal TV shows, they're just TV. Nobody, me, I spent hours in the county records office looking at microfilm about the Bothell house, about the land. It's not fun. It's not sexy. It's boring, right? Who wants to look at microfilm? But you got to do it, right? You got to do it. And I was able to find, after 8 hours of being there, that there was a house where the Bothell house was. Well, there was a cabin there. And that was very interesting. The cabin was faced the opposite direction. It was facing the creek. Our house faces away from the creek. This cabin was the only cabin in that area in the mid-1900s. Well, it's gone now, and now our house remains, and now a whole community lives there. So that was interesting.
Absolutely.
The Native American aspect, the smallpox, where 500 Native Americans died and lost their lives in Bothell, and were put in mass graves. All that stuff was easily accessible. Because in my office, keep in mind, you got upside down man, right? You got the upside down stick figure of a man. That's a clue. The poltergeist, which they rarely do, is giving you or us clues as to why it's there, as to why it's being nefarious. The upside down man, it means a man has died, okay? And in Native American terms, it means a man has either died of smallpox or was murdered, okay? Both scenarios have been found in Bothell just by record research of Native Americans. And that's the poltergeist telling you, sort of telling you, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm upset. This is why I'm burning Bibles, okay? We've been here. Y'all came here in the mid-1800s. Y'all chased us out with Christianity. Y'all burnt us. Y'all got smallpox. We got it. We died. Those that didn't convert to Christianity, got messed over. And here comes Keith and Tina almost 200 years later, with our Bibles and with our crosses. Of course, a poltergeist is going to incinerate that stuff, right? But he's writing on the wall, upside down, man, and he's writing in it with bone black, which is incinerated buffalo bison bone, which makes the plot even more intriguing because you're like, whoa, right. What's up with the buffalo bison bone? But that's what the wall analysis tests reveal.
No, fair enough. Right.
Yeah, that's what research does. It answers a question, but it's almost like when I don't know if you saw Avengers: Infinity War.
Oh, of course.
Like, yeah, you can have the life stone, but you got to leave a life here, right?
That makes sense.
Right? I'm gonna tell you what the stuff is made out of, the bone black, but I'm not gonna tell you where it come from. So what do you want? What do you want?
Right.
One question is gonna be get more questions.
Of course.
But now we know it's bone black and it's buffalo incinerated bison bone. And they don't sell that in large quantities anywhere on Earth. I checked. I looked.
It's like, how would you even get that if you wanted it? Like, that makes
you can't even get it. You can't call a paint store, Home Depot, Lowe's, Sears, or whatever,
right,
and say I need a can of bone black. They don't know what the heck you're talking about. And so but the spirit, evidently somewhere in the spirit world, it has an unlimited supply because we would paint over it and it would throw it right back on there, back on there. And it did it on the ceiling, and it did on every wall in the office. And without moving any furniture. Some of that stuff goes behind the TV, if you see them, behind the entertainment center, behind the computer desk. You and I couldn't do that. You couldn't draw upside stick figure man behind your computer screen right now, because the angles and all that, you couldn't do that. You would not be able to do that. So they're doing that, and all that was at Zach and them's disposal. They could have done so much with just that office. And like I said, I think they were just in over their heads and not really there to get to the truth. They just wanted the sexiness of the case. But a lot of the research I've done and others have done, you don't see paranormal TV shows do. You never see anybody, like I said, in a room looking at a microfilm all day or pulling up print sheets and spreadsheets at the city hall, and nobody does. You should do that.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
that's fair enough. So yeah, I mean, that's what really annoyed me, I think, with the whole Ghost Adventures in general, was the unprofessionalism, and they didn't even attempt to investigate. So what's the point? But since you've moved out of the Bothell Hell House, have you heard of any new activities happening at the house? Do you know the people who live there currently, or what's going on with the house right now?
No, I moved out the house. Just educational listeners, I moved out May of 2016. 4 years, almost to the day. It was May 1st. Me and Tina moved in 2012. I moved out May 7th of 2016, and the house sold rather quickly. July of that same summer. I do know the home occupants now. They knew the house was haunted. They knew the house had been on a TV show or something.
Gotcha.
That did not sway them. Houses in this part of America go like that. My friend sold a house yesterday in 12 hours.
Oh, damn.
So, 12 hours. Like, wow, dude. I wish I had two of them.
Right.
But then something interesting happened. About 6 months, maybe 8 months later, one of my friends who lives a few houses down from the Bothell house, still does, emails me on Facebook and says, "Hey, the people in your house changed the front door. They put a blue door on the house. And I was like, blue door? That's kind of weird. He's like, hey, send me a photo. And I Googled what blue door, the symbolism of it, because they're an Indian family. They're from India.
Oh, gotcha.
And then several websites and several cultures, a blue door on a house is meant to ward off evil spirits or negative energy. It's to combat it. It's to keep it out.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was interesting. I thought the fact that they did that several months after they moved in versus before they moved in means something went on. Probably minute, probably low key, like it was for us. And the blue door was to sort of quell it or nip it in the bud. But I have not gone by the house. I have not knocked on the door or checked up for the simple fact that, I don't want to give them the notion to start looking over their shoulder for activity.
That's fair.
Poltergeists, if they want to get your attention, they know how to get your attention. They don't need my help. And I'm easily accessible. I'm easy to find. And I'm in the winds. If you ever need me or the teams I work with, they can find me. But I don't want to suggest to them. And I don't also want to show or imply that I need some sort of confirmation about my activity. Our activity exists on its own, like the previous tenant who lived in the home in 2008 and 2009, who had activity and who Ghost Adventures had contact info, but never interviewed them.
Of course.
Yeah. But if they're not having any activity, and Steve Merrill, the parapsychologist Steve Merrill, even said, hey, once again, we know so little about poltergeists. It's not so much the house. It's not a haunted house. It is, but it ain't.
Right.
It's not meaning that everybody who lives here is going to see burnt Bibles and flying couches and all that. No, that's not going to. We have plenty of historical haunted houses throughout the world where the people who had the most activity moved out, somebody else moved in. The house is like the Waltons now. It's like, right. So yeah, it's a synergy. There's an energy, something dormant springs into action when a certain couple or family moves in, and we still don't know what that synergy is. It's like what we're dealing with now with COVID. Different people get COVID, right?
Absolutely.
And the reaction is different. It's just different. Like, oh man, that person, Cliff's gone. What Cliff? That guy he was a poster child from the epitome of health.
Oh yeah.
So we don't know. And poltergeists are the same way. We don't know.
Nope, absolutely. That makes sense. But all right, man, I do appreciate you coming back to the show. Was there anything else you want to say regarding the investigation or regarding Ghost Adventures or just regarding your story from the Bothell Hell House for the listeners here?
Yeah, and once again, thanks for having me. I always love chatting with you, and I'm always accessible. So if we want to do this again, let me know.
Oh, absolutely.
Or get some of the researchers in, let me know. But yeah, I just tell your listeners, and I tell everybody who watched the episode, who had doubts about me and Tina's truthfulness, is watch the Demons in Seattle Uncovered documentary. It's free on YouTube. It's an hour and a half. It's free. And just watch that. Read both books. The Bothell Hell House is 4 years ordeal. Starts up from the day we moved in to the time I'm about to move out. Attachments, Poltergeist of Washington State picks up where that one left off. I'm still living in the home. I got about 2 months left in the home. The second book, talks about why the house was haunted and the three things we sort of talked about today, what the black oil was made out of. I expand more on the previous tenants who lived in the home, and I talk about the phenomena that still chases me to this day. So those three things, 2 books and a documentary, there's no way anybody could walk away thinking Keith and Tina made up this stuff after those 3 things. Literally just one, because they all complement each other. And when you watch the documentary, you're hearing other teams. I shut up. It's not me. It's their investigation. Right. It's their document. It's their documentary. So Watch that, and then you'll see those who watch the Demons in Seattle episode will see why Ghost Adventures didn't get anything, and it's just easy as that.
No, absolutely makes sense. So Melissa, she did say this was very interesting, and she thanks you for sharing your experiences here.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Appreciate it.
She's a big deal. She's the first lady of the website that we're on right now, alleverythingentertainment.com. So,
Oh, sweet. Okay.
again, yeah, appreciate being on the go. Appreciate you being back again, and again, be safe, and be sure to check out Keith's the Bothell. If I can read here, Amazon.com, the Bothell Hell House Poltergeist of Washington State, and that's your second book, right?
Yeah, the second book is Attachments. Poltergeist of Washington State Part 2. Yep, sure is.
Awesome. All right, man, so let's go ahead and wrap it up here. I appreciate you, and we'll stay in touch. I'd definitely love to have you back on, and again, with some investigators or whoever you think would be a good fit.
Okay, I'll be in touch.
All right, awesome. Hey, have a good night, man. Appreciate you.
All right, you too, man. Be safe. Stay safe.
You too, thank you. All right, guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Paranormal Axetivities. I always do enjoy having Keith on. Go back if you haven't listened. I think it's episodes 6 and 7. Keith's first time on the show. I know I split up in half because back then I cared about time length. Now I really don't. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up, man. If you guys have any questions, concerns, just hit me up. A huge thank you to All Everything Entertainment for making it possible. I keep messing my arms here. For making it possible to be live like we're doing right now. So huge thanks to All Everything Entertainment. Be sure to check out new Paranormal every week. Typically Mondays, sometimes Sundays, sometimes Tuesdays. Be sure to check out my other wrestling podcast, or regularly scheduled Hostilities, live every Thursday night with my co-host Josh DeBoard at 6 p.m. And also be sure to check out Josh's other show. He has the DeBoard Room every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Sports, football, basketball, all that good stuff. And then also, if you're into the wrestling, check out the Wednesday Night War Watch-Along with Josh DeBoard and Anthony DeSalvatore. I may have butchered that name, but hey, sorry if I did. So be sure to check out all of this stuff, and plus check out all the other podcasts on All Everything Entertainment. We got the Whiskey Cinema every Sunday nights at 9 o'clock. I know there's a bunch of other sports and all kinds of good stuff, so just check it out. And I think it's going to go ahead and wrap it up. So be sure to also, if you're not into the video, if you're not into live stuff, I typically listen to podcasts via audio myself. So be sure to check us out on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and recently we just got on Pandora. So that was fucking awesome. So yeah, we're on Pandora now. And also I do have some merchandise. I did not put the website in the thing, but if you go to teespring.com, Paranormal Axetivities, you will find all of the merchandise for Paranormal Axetivities and all the merchandise for regularly scheduled Hostilities and the boardroom. So all of that cool stuff. And so that's it. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. And let's just keep learning about the paranormal together.